All right, let's talk about something that can literally make or break a project, the Business Requirements Document, or BRD. We're going to pull back the curtain and figure out what this thing is all about.
So does this sound familiar? You kick off a project, everyone's excited, the energy is high, and then, somewhere down the line, it just completely derails. It's a super common and, let's be honest, an incredibly frustrating feeling. You know the signs, right? Those meetings that just go around and around in circles with no real decisions. Or you get to the end and the final product is not what anyone actually wanted. The plan keeps changing, and pretty soon nobody's really sure what the goal was in the first place. These are all symptoms of a project that's built on a really shaky foundation. But what if I told you there's a tool designed specifically to prevent all that chaos from the very beginning? Well, there is, and it's meant to bring some serious order to the mess. It's called the Business Requirements Document, the BRD. And really, at its heart, it's just a formal document that clearly lays out what the project is supposed to do and why. Its main job? To get the entire team, stakeholders, developers, everyone on the exact same page working from the same script.
You know, the easiest way to think about a BRD is like this. It's the architect's blueprint for your project. I mean, you would never, ever start building a house without a detailed plan, right? One that shows every single room, every dimension. The BRD does that exact same thing, just for your project. So let's take a quick tour of this blueprint. We're going to walk through the key parts so you can see exactly how it gives a project the structure it needs to actually succeed. And any good blueprint is going to start with the big picture. For the BRD, that's the project overview. It tells you what you're building, and maybe even more importantly, why you're building it in the first place.
Okay, now we're getting to what is arguably the most critical part of the entire document, defining the scope. This is where you draw really clear, sharp lines around what you're actually going to build. And this really breaks down into two parts. In scope is the list of everything we are promising to deliver. In our house analogy, these are the rooms we are definitely 100% building, but out of scope is just as important. That's the list of what we are explicitly not building, like that swimming pool we talked about but agreed isn't part of this plan. Getting this right prevents so many headaches later on. Let's make this super practical. Say we're building a new website. The in-scope section would list the exact pages we're on the hook for, a home page, an About Us page, and a Contact Us page. See? No confusion.
And here is why defining what's out of scope is a total project saver. By clearly stating that writing the website's content is out of scope, you stop that moment down the line where someone asks, so when are you guys writing all the text? It's a simple little clarification that can avoid a massive misunderstanding. Now, a good blueprint isn't just about what you're building. It also has to account for things that could go wrong. This next section is all about trying to see the future, identifying those problems before they even happen. Think of this part like the architect's notes in the margins. It's the stuff that experienced pros know to look for. It lists out all the assumptions we're making, any dependencies we have on other teams, constraints like our budget or deadline, and of course, the potential risks that pop up because of all those things. And here's a perfect example of how this works. An assumption like, oh, the website needs to be multilingual. Sounds simple, right? But whoa, that one little sentence introduces a ton of potential risk. All of a sudden, you have dependencies on translation services, and you've got the risk of blowing your budget if you didn't plan for it. Okay, so a question that always comes up is, when is this blueprint actually finished? And the answer really depends on how you're running your project. There are basically two main schools of thought here. With a traditional waterfall project, you create the entire finished blueprint, the whole BRD, right at the start. It gets signed off, and then you build. But with an agile approach, the blueprint is more of a living document. It gets created or updated in chunks with each new phase or release, which allows for a lot more flexibility. But here's the most important thing to remember. No matter when it's created, the BRD becomes the project's single source of truth. It's the one document that cuts through the chaos, aligns everybody, and turns a fuzzy idea into a solid, concrete plan that people can actually follow. So now that you've had the tour, I'll just leave you with this one question to chew on. Imagine your project's blueprint is all written out. What's the very first risk you would put on that list? Something to think about.